Hello. I was asked to make a video of this motor car. This is the latest acquisition of the fleet. This is called a Beavercar. I posted a video the other day showing some test running of it, and I thought I'd give everybody a shot of what this thing really is. Apparently this was built in 1984. It's relatively new in terms of motor cars. I purchased it back at the end of September from somebody who was in the motor car club. He had passed away. His widow sold it to me. It was barely operating at the time. Since then, I have done numerous repairs to it. Nothing major, but enough work to correct a lot of the mistakes that were made before. And this had been in storage for a number of years and was not used. It had sat outside. So it's pretty much complete and ready to go now. Everything on it works. In fact, I just finished repairing a electrical issue that it had. So let me hit pause and I'm going to open it back up. The cab lifts from the front and pivots on the back. So hang on a sec. We're back. The cab has been tilted backwards. Opening the doors gives it a little bit more counterweight to counterbalance it. This handhold, there's one on either side. I can pick it up by myself with the doors back. There's a prop here that holds it open, and then there's a gas strut back there that I added since I purchased this to help lift it up and actually to support it while it's up in the air. This car is not very common in that it's an all hydraulic drive car. That's a Honda, obviously GX670. I had to pull that. That engine was full of acorns. As I said, this thing had been in storage and the squirrels really got into there. There's no way to get the shroud off in the front. What you're looking at right here, that's the hydraulic oil cooler. And then there's a frame member right in front of it, and the front shroud will not lift forward, will not move forward enough to be able to pull it out. So I did have the engine out to clean it, which I did. I also changed the alternator belt. As you can see, there's a coupling between the engine, and you can see the yellow, that's a Lovejoy coupling between the engine, and then the blue is a hydraulic pump. And you can see the alternator belt is tucked in there. To change the alternator belt, you've got to separate the engine from the bell housing. I had used a segmented belt in there, but it really didn't work all that well. I also had to change the alternator and modified the mount to be able to get full adjustment on the alternator. That was not possible before. I tried to keep this as much as I could as I found it, only in that I wanted to get to what I call zero, where it was operating in the condition that it had been in the last time it ran. The battery is the same battery that was in it before. Changed the fuel filter, obviously air filter, oil, alternator, all the fluids. Over here's the hydraulic tank. There's a hydraulic filter in the back. You can see that. And then down, and I'm going to take you in there. You can see it's chain drive, and then that blue that you can barely see, that's the hydraulic motor. The little motor mounted on the frame is for a gasoline heater. It's one of those Hunter heaters. It's currently disconnected. That heater would need to be serviced, and I'm not interested in doing that right now. But you can see it's dual chain drive. The rear axle is solid, so that both wheels are driven off the one motor and chain. The front axle has what we would call a loose wheel. That's why the axle is extended on this side. When these cars were new, there was a four-wheel drive option, but that was quickly disconnected and not utilized because then the car would not go around curves very well. The red cylinder in the middle is a hydraulic turntable. It has its own separate power unit, which you can see over on this side in the rear. And let's walk around and I'll show you. Here's the operating lever for it. You push it to engage the pump, and then up or down, depending on which way you want the turntable foot to move. This also has air suspension, and those gauges in the back are to show the pressure that's in the bags. It has just these standard little truck seat bags on it for suspension. Fuel tank in the rear. There is a sending unit. So the one thing I did was I replaced these shackle bushings. These bushings were originally rubber. They are shackle bushings out of a Chevy pickup truck. And I replaced them with some form of either neoprene or polyethylene. I don't know what it is, but they're the replacement shackle bushings for the original rubber ones. They allow the bearing housing to rotate back and forth. It pivots on that shackle bushing, and then you have the air suspension in the front. You can also see there's a brand new brake hose on there. The brakes needed to be rebuilt. Like I said, they're discs. Here's a view on top of the disc brake assembly. These are Toll-O-Matic disc brakes, at least the calipers are. The pucks were shot, they were worn out, and the housings were actually rubbing against the rotors because the shackle bushings were bad. So you can see the way that the calipers are mounted. One other thing is that this is a lock or latch, and these are set-off levers. You can use these to turn the car in case the turntable malfunctions, but it's very heavy. It's going to take at least 2 guys to do it, and I know I wouldn't want to do it. You can also see here's the way the tow hitch is set up on these bumpers. Car was equipped with a toolbox initially, although this toolbox was added by the former owner, and there are lights he added in there. Those are ditch lights. They will flash when triggered by one of the horns. And as I said, the cab pivots backwards. The cab is solid aluminum. Some people think it's fiberglass. It's not. It's solid aluminum, but it's well balanced. So let's bring it down and I'll show you a little bit inside the cab. So here we have the control panel. This looks like a lunar lander from in here, and that looks like the lunar control panel, a much smaller version of it, but I just think it's pretty funny. Ignition key, obviously. That's an air compressor that's running. For the air horns, there's a small little receiver for it. The oil light, if you looked at that prior video, that oil light stayed on while the engine was running. The sensor for the oil pressure was not operational. I've since replaced that. It works fine now. You've got a horn, series of fuses. You've got a hydraulic oil temperature gauge. You've got a voltmeter. You've got a fuel level, and you also have an oil pressure gauge. And then across the top, you've got headlight and front or rear headlights. There's a heater. There is the ditch light circuit. There's a flasher unit, the radio, fan. There's, as I said, the turntable operates, and then there's wipers on either side. So car works well. This is the master cylinder for the disc brakes. There are disc brakes on the front axle and the pedal that operates them, obviously. This is the parking brake. To engage the parking brake, you push your foot down and slide it over. Almost Flintstones. So, but it's effective and it does work. You've got an air pressure gauge for the air horns. He added them. As I said, there's a Kenwood radio here, and that's pretty much it. It starts right up and rolls back and forth as you saw in the other video. This is the throttle lever that controls the throttle and the engine, obviously, but because it's hydraulic drive, it operates very similar to a zero-turn lawnmower, and so you basically leave the throttle back pretty far as you move along, and then this lever controls the forward or reverse. Push it forward to go forward, pull it backwards to go reverse. It's locked in the center. This is a flow control valve that rotates, that allows it to go into bypass to make you go faster. My understanding is that these cars will do approximately 30 miles an hour. That's about it. So I don't know. I've changed the hydraulic oil in it. Put ISO 46 in it, I believe. And we'll see how it does. Let me hit pause again. Anyway, the car is fairly unique. It's in good shape. It's got nice paint. Not to me that means a lot, but it does mean a lot to a lot of other people. One strange thing it has is it has these bumpers. They're just spring steel coiled around. Interesting bumper arrangement. This lever here is to unlock or lock the hydraulic turntable into position, and there is an alarm on it, so whenever it's unlocked or the possibility of the turntable being in the down position, there is a very annoying alarm that screeches in the cab. So that's to alert you that your turntable's down, and that's a no-no. Cars can derail or flip off the tracks if the turntable's down. Anyway, feel free to make comments, and that's about it. See you guys.